Hey Tim, hey Piki, hey Igaras, Suarez, and JC. Hope you guys are well. This is going to be a pretty brief session tonight as the market is pretty evidently clear on the way that it sort of wants to head leading into FOMC on the 3rd and the 5th of this month, with a lot of news around rate hikes, what's happening in traditional finance at the moment. So as you can see on my screen, I believe I'm still sharing. Just raise your hand if it looks like I'm not sharing this screen. Yeah, still sharing. So at the moment, I've just correlated my two charts together from the S&P 500 and Bitcoin. As you can see, even though that everybody stipulated, like I annotated last week in my TA session, that Bitcoin was going in an upward trend from Do Kwon buying BTC as a backing asset for Terra Luna, you can kind of see at the same time it was a bit of a correlated move with the S&P 500 pushing up higher through this range, and then we've just reversed all the way down. Something to take note as we are leading into FOMC this week, regardless of what happens, and I've stipulated this time and time again, is that we want to trade on confirmation, not speculation. Unless you are a really risk-adverse trader and you have the balls, literally the balls to go in on what you would stipulate to be the bottom before confirmation of a reversal, of a trend reversal. But at the moment with the S&P 500, we are at some pretty dangerous levels. The formation, technically, I'm not going to lie, it looks like absolute trash. We've had that huge run up from March 2020 when we had that black swan when COVID entered the world and ruined everyone. We've been on an uptrend since then. This has been the first massive deviation in this upward trend for the good part of 2 years now. And the structure that we've got happening with the moving averages sort of flipping, both EMAs and normal moving averages. This chart is on the daily, so as you can see, everyone was thinking that we might have had a little deviation and we got bought right back up. This looks like a continued bit of a dead cat bounce, kind of like this pattern we have here with Bitcoin. As you can see, my index just crossed these timelines across. I'll talk about this whole sort of rounding shape pattern at the moment. Leading down to this lower levels with my raise, and I grabbed some key levels before with this little cluster of candles on the way up that we had back in 14th of May 21. This is the level that I'd be looking for this to lose. If we lost this, I think there's really, really bad news coming out of the Fed this week when they do have their meeting and markets go risk off. I would definitely see us technically heading to lower levels. How far we drop is depending on how scared risk asset investors get. You could be looking at something like here around technically these cluster of candles before we have that next leg up in traditional markets. So that's just something to look at for me, which would be in traditional markets, we're already down 10% from that last run up, which was when everyone stipulated again Do Kwon was buying, which was on the 29th of March. We could be something like a 4% flush out, which is not too dissimilar in traditional markets, especially the S&P 500. There's been days where we've had nice red candles like this that have taken the market 3.19%, and similar stuff along the likes of these candles through here. So something around 4.25 off the back end of really bad news from the Fed wouldn't be, I would say, unattainable. So something looking to bounce again, something like this formation, how we've created a lower low, lower high, and now we are sitting right on this key range. We lose this, we'll definitely structure a new lower low and then look for another bounce, which is where we can trade from once we try and capitulate and capture the bottom, especially in Bitcoin or riskier assets like Ethereum or anything that's alt related, as the Bitcoin dominance chart is heading high too, and it is on a structured sort of high level at the moment, and I'll switch to that chart in 2 seconds. But just to take note in this traditional finance of what's happening in the world, and that sort of greater macro scene is really important, because we are not broken away and Bitcoin is following and it rules the roost. It takes everything with it. As you can see on the right hand side here, some alts are holding strong. I wouldn't say strong, but they are moving for whatever reason, like Harbor. I believe Step Finance is up 10%, even though the chart looks absolutely horrible. And stuff like METIS up 4.8%, Luna. I believe Cadena moved 8% yesterday. Apecoin's taken absolute hammering since the other side launched. It peaked up at $27 and it's just done a complete reversal since then. So I think it was a bit of a a buy the rumor, sell the news sort of event. But without getting too much into odds, I'll just switch to Bitcoin on its own. Let me just get rid of this chart. Bitcoin USDT. So here we are. Oh, sorry, still got my little cursor on. So here we are at the moment with Bitcoin. Key levels to look at here, if we lose this range, I'll be looking at the bottom of this cluster, like I mentioned last week. Sorry guys, let me just get this on auto, get my averages up. So I'll be looking for us to capitulate if we lose these levels here down to the bottom of this range or something like that, around that mid to low 30s. Again, we're down 20% from the top of that peak, where we hit the 80 whole moving average right on the nose. Drag this down to where we are currently, and you'd be looking at a 16% flush. If we got some really big fear, over the week, divide that by 7 over a 7-day period. It's not that much. It's maybe 2% a day. We can have a day where we go 7 to 10% flush and alts go a 20% flush. We get that capitulation down. We capture some liquidity and some long positions and whales that potentially are lurking, waiting for something like this, like really, really big whales with millions and millions of dollars. In traditional finance, they want to enter the market and know something bad is coming, or potentially, a bigger rate hike than expected. But as a lot of the traditional market analyzers predict that, it's priced in already, that's yet to be seen. So I want to trade personally off confirmation, not speculation. And we'll wait to see the announcements that come out of the Fed this week. So that's it from a macro perspective. Technically, Bitcoin is still in a downtrend, from this top, regardless of how many people think the trend has been broken. Overall, we are still in a downtrend. It doesn't matter how many times you draw this. The market, we have these little bounces and people are calling them a dead cat bounce, but ultimately, we are still heading down. Relative strength index, if we zoom out to the weekly, lines for guys. Sorry. There we go. So the weekly paints a better and sort of just clearer picture on a long-term time frame. We are starting to bottom out and sort of go sideways. I wouldn't call this a higher high and a lower low, not just yet. Just wait for these news factors to come out with these rate hikes and then everything that's happening in Russia and Ukraine. Also, you can see here that the RSI did cross the moving average and we got this flush, which was it wasn't the top, but it was around about that top near the 80 HMA when we pulled off, and now we're below that whole moving average cluster on the weekly. So there's a lot of room to get to get up and get our legs up again. Whether we cross here and we head back up, yet to see. Volume's down 16.3% on the volume oscillator, and MACD again, it's just not painting anything bullish in my opinion. It's looking like it wants to cross and head higher, but again, we just haven't seen that volume that you would usually see inject into the market if we do get a bullish cross. Like even on this run here, when we had the MACD cross, then we went to a better bullish structure. Volume didn't actually pick up too much through this sort of range. So it was interesting to see the price increase so hard, so fast, and the volume actually didn't really pick up, which was a sign of a weaker market as we just tipped off from that bull run back here. So all in all, we're still in a downtrend. We are correlated to those macro news events and everything that's happening across the world. And as you can see here on the RSI, which is something I personally have really heavily rely on, we're still just touching this sort of key area here, bump, 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 and just heading lower. So whether we actually do get a full reset down to something like here, back in this timeline, say 2019, and then 2020, which was the COVID crash. So here, and do we actually re-enter this off the back end of really, really bad news and go lower, and then find ourselves on the bottom of that 32, 33 range and push back up? That's yet to see. Maybe like a bump and run off that. But again, this is on the monthly. This is on the weekly, so a longer time frame. Won't even bother going down to the monthly. It's not really worth it, in my opinion, unless we're going to look at some on-chain data on Glassnode. I do have an enterprise account with Glassnode, so if anyone wants to throw anything in the comments for probably next week's TA, we could go on chain and have a look at some wallet addresses and holdings and who's buying and who's holding coins, and the spikes of like levels like this around this 38 level when we do have that sell-off, of what sort of wallet addresses are increasing in their coin holdings. So whether it's Bitcoin holders holding in one coin, over 10 coins, over 100 coins, or over 10,000 coins, you can actually see on chain with that enterprise subscription down to the hour of changes. So I'll personally be sitting and watching this like an absolute hawk, probably on Thursday or whenever they have the meeting. If we do sort of lead into that, that bearish or that hawkish market and that news, then I'll be watching on chain to see the wallet addresses for anything potentially over 10 Bitcoin would probably where I'd start from, and then I'd look at something over 100, then to the thousands. I don't see any whales that have that amount of money with holding over 10,000 Bitcoin really needing to dump it, especially under 40K, if they've managed to accumulate through this range over, let's say, the past 12 months with the dump from Elon Musk and the China FUD that we had. So I'll bring up some more charts next week on Glassnode and show you guys sort of like who's in profit, who's in loss, short-term holders, long-term holders, and we can do some market cycle top indicators too, like buy cycles, and we'll just have a look at everything on chain from Glassnode next week. That'd be pretty cool in my opinion, if we can separate these TA sessions up from just candles and moving averages and relative strength indexes to something that can actually paint that picture in your head of where the market's going, help you create that trade narrative to whether we're going downwards or whether we're going upwards, then whether you want to catch the bumps on capitulations, you want to long positions, or whether you want to actually open a short and try and short the market over a longer period of time, depending on your bias as to whether we're bearish or bullish. And then, yeah, you know, you take that into relation as to what we're doing sort of in that outer macro field with everything that's happening in the world. The dollar's been rallying really, really hard. We're over 100 now. We're at 103.2 at the moment. You can see on the screen, absolutely pumping. That's been a big sign of strength, and a lot of people have gone risk off throughout a number of things. 10-year treasury yields are up too. They're taking a lot of liquidity out of the markets. Everyone's running for safety through a lot of things. Gold down from it sort of run up here nice and high, so it was actually really funny to see this. I thought gold would actually break here, the previous all-time high, and then actually push harder. But to see it actually hit that level and then sell off, and the same as oil, I believe oil pulled off. I'm just trying to find out. Here we go. Brent crude oil. To actually see oil come down and then sort of consolidate in this nice wedge, it'll be interesting to see where this actually goes over a period of time, depending on the news coming out of Russia and Ukraine. So it'll be interesting to see this break and then which way it's going to go, whether it comes down here, breaks up and then heads north, or whether we come in here and then breaks south. So I would personally love it to break south, so then fuel can get cheaper. That would be amazing. But yeah, it'd be interesting to see it just bounce through this range. I haven't seen a good formation in oil like this in a long time, especially bouncing in this wedge. RSI's pulled right off too. We're just consolidating on that moving average, and then the MACD as well has bounced, and it's just consolidating. So it'll be interesting to see the move oil makes, whether that's out of, again, news out of the world on that greater macro scene. I know I keep saying it, but it's just, you know, it's what we all have to pay attention to at the moment, because trying to just buy random coins in cryptocurrency throughout this market, it's really hard. And a lot of the trading that I've been basing my trade plan off, even though I haven't been fully actively engaged in the market and pressing that buy and long button, it's still good to be looking at your charts, creating your trade plans, looking at narratives that could potentially make you money. Because then if you create that narrative and then you say, oh, you know, I would have bought it here because of this reason, etc., and you create a trade plan for yourself, even though you didn't execute it, if it was right and you watched it over time, and it's something I just did with Ape on Binance. I didn't get in on the launch, but I watched the price consolidate and then watched the news of when the other side was going to release, and thought, you know, just painted that picture in my head of if that narrative's correct and it's releasing soon, what coins would you need to buy them? And it was ApeCoin and Ethereum that they were offering to buy, you know, everything that they released. So the demand was there leading into the release. And then as they've gone through, it was, yeah, again, it was that kind of buy the rumor, sell the news. And then I'll just switch to the chart super quick so you guys can see. And I'll go down to 8 hour. As you can see, hit this top. We had a bit of a double top, and then it's just sold off. I believe the 4 hour paint's a really good picture, as you can see right there. So we had that kind of double top, pumped up, couldn't break that key level there at 24, nearly $25, and it's just sold off since. So if anyone's lucky enough to be in a country that allows Binance to do short positions, like with leverage, if you like to use leverage, don't recommend it for everyone, but that would have been a great short. Sorry, I just got my ruler and not my short long. You know, 37.68% on a 2x lever would have nearly been 100% ROI in Australian dollars, but in US dollars, you know, you post that 70%. So once I saw that structure break, especially with Bitcoin, I believe back around here had a little bit of a hiccup. That would have been a great short to get in on. So there is still plays in the market. You just need to be researching what they are. You know, it could be any coin. It doesn't need to be METIS, doesn't need to be Peak. Again, we're here for education. That's why I'm doing these TAs, and I encourage you guys to put whatever you would like into the chat. Sorry, I've just opened it up. And I can just cover any coin you want. So that is it from me from a BTC perspective. I'll just cross to the BTC Dominance, and then we'll cover METIS, as we are at a pretty key level with METIS at the moment. Sorry guys, let me just, where is it? BTCD. Come on, computer. So, oh, yeah. So Bitcoin Dominance, we've pumped up out of these lows where alt absolutely took us for a ride back in January, and people were making some money back then, which was really, really good to see on certain alts. We broke up, hit that 44 level, and now we've just had this little rounding bottom, and it looks like we're starting to drive our way back up. As I said, some alts are holding up better than others. A lot of them have been to do with maybe mainnet releases, NFT auctions or launches. But again, like you could just see with Ape, it's a lot of hype via a lot of marketing and a lot of influencers to drive price up, to then potentially get exit liquidity, take their ROI and exit the market and dump their bags on you. Don't be naive. If you think that doesn't happen, that's absolutely ridiculous. There are big players out in the market that will just pay for marketing, they'll pay for certain things, and they will pump the price of, you know, leading events to releases, etc. And then they'll just get a nice ROI in a dead market, dump it on you, and see you later, walk away, cool, come and collect it. So that is a strategy a lot of people use. But again, Bitcoin ruling the roost here. If we can break this level and push higher like this, back when we did in October, I mean, it'll be interesting to see, because when Bitcoin runs, I'm not sure that we have that traditional leg where Bitcoin runs and it sucks oxygen and liquidity out of the other coins like Ethereum and stuff and alts, because everyone wants to FOMO in on Bitcoin and capture the upside. And then as we start to consolidate, you see alts start to catch up and raise and move, and those profits roll out to the altcoin market. I think the market's been suppressed for so long in this choppy range, especially even though we hit that all-time high. I think everyone's been suppressed that we are in a bear market, even though you don't want to admit we're in a bear market. That if Bitcoin runs, and it really does run, and we head past 50K, I think the whole market would come alive. There'll be some coins that get left in the dust because they're not ready. Maybe their tech's not ready, or there's just things with their marketing that isn't ready. But I definitely will admit that the protocols that have been working consistently throughout this bear market period and this really bad macro scene that we've been in with rate hikes in Russia and the war, the coins that have made moves and secured positions within marketing and then key strategies within this sort of crypto world, they'll do really, really well. So how you pick those, you've got to do your fundamental analysis on all of those coins. Look for your TA entry level. So you know, your fundamental analysis will tell you what to buy and why you should buy it. If your fundamentals are off, well then it's a yes or a no. And then once you've done your fundamental analysis, move to your technical analysis, which will tell you when you should buy it. So that's the way I run things. I do my fundamentals, and it will tell me if something's strong, you know, what is its strengths, its weaknesses, its opportunities, its threats, what problems does it solve within the market, you know, who are its competitors, is it just reinventing the wheel, is it a fork, is it this, you know, there's all these things you can throw at FA for crypto coins. And then once you've identified that you're happy with that product or that coin, the solution they're trying to do, the team that's behind it, you know, there's all these things you need to put into that sort of fundamental analysis. And Tristan, I know he's on here, but he's really, really good. Sorry guys. He's really, really good at FA. And then once you've identified something you'd like to invest in, then it's up to the TA. And, you know, you could absolutely fall in love with something and then take one look at the charts and it's just yuck. And it's just like, what is the point of buying it? Because it's in a downtrend. Something I could flip to just off the top of my head would actually be Step Finance. I've had a look at their stuff on Solana. Where is this bad boy? Step. There we go. So it's up 11%. I guarantee you a lot of people are jumping on Step right now because they've done what I've just done. They're probably looking through CoinMarketCap, CoinGecko, looking for top movers with a little bit of 24-hour trade volume and a little bit of market cap, so they're not going to get used as exit liquidity if a whale just hits one button and hits sell. So Step USD, you know, it doesn't matter to me how much you love the tech on this thing built on Solana and the wallets that's on the website, and you know, the way that they can do their stuff. That to me is, you know, is this dead bottom? It's hard to say. Really hard to say. Like, this chart to me is just downwards. It's terrible. Like, why would you buy here? You know, you have to really speculate the fundamental side of this project, and then also why it's had this dump from May or April last year. Did it just launch at the wrong time when we had that dump off from the first all-time high? Then they got the liquidity bounce. It just didn't get the traction for the second all-time high, and then it's just absolutely copped it. Great product, wrong time. Or is it just not the right product? Something like Aeacus, I just noticed it before as I was scrolling through. Aeacus previously touched $3.40, and I actually think this is on Bittrex. I actually think it touched $8 at one point previous to this. But again, you know, Aeacus, I know exactly what Aeacus is. It's a decentralized cloud software solution that just shits all over AWS, Amazon Web Services. But again, why has Aeacus lost pretty much majority of its protocol, 85%? Same could be said, you know, I don't know where they're at. I personally don't know the fundamentals of where they are at with Aeacus, their technology, and what they're trying to do. I'm not up to speed with it like I am with METIS, which is why we've actually built on it. Obviously, everybody knows that with big finance. So METIS at the moment, same could be said. Personally, you know, from 320 down to here, you know, we've lost 85% of the network's value. TVL's dropped off. You know, you can see through this range, we did have a lot of ups and downs and chop and change. VCs were selling, and I believe some team players were selling. You could see the contract addresses on Etherscan selling at 160, and we got suppressed so many times as the trade volume even picked up on the unlocked. All the coins changed hands just here through this period, and then we got the sort of bad news, and I covered this last week, so I won't harp on too long, but we got that bad sort of team news, about a certain person in the network, and it's just dropped off since then, in alignment with the market too. So in terms of METIS, which relates exactly to Peak, obviously Peak has its way to make money, and everyone that's probably watching this call right now is all over what happens with the LP and, you know, in the summit, the farm, and how we use bonds, Peak and Pro. So there is a way to make ROI in the network and in this current market state, even though we are going sideways, especially with METIS's movements. Volatility captures ROI for us at times. So if we get bad news this week from FOMC and the market goes super hawkish, the S&P breaks that lower level I marked out and everyone goes risk off, be prepared for it. Again, I would rather trade on confirmation, not speculation. You could potentially enter into this market now, which looks like a local bottom for METIS. How do you know that? Well, I'd happily flick in here to the 4 hour. You know, you've had these little bounces all the way up the market, and that again is like a small time frame of, let's say, what's that, a day and a half. Again, this one, 2 days, day and a half. So where are we now on this one? Nearly a day and a half. So I'd watch this for market close tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. for us. I'm not sure what it is for everyone else. And then see what happens. Does this start to break up here? You can see it's touched this moving average just here as we try to break up with a little bit more strength. But again, we've just, this is on the small time frame, the 4 hour, which is like a trading time frame. But even swapping to Aeacus at the moment, we are just in this heavy sell pattern. So I would wait. I'm going to wait personally, just to looking at this out on the daily. I'm going to wait as we've touched this wick that showed that there was a bit of strength at 40 as someone's order got filled and we got bought back up. But again, until these candles for me on Aeacus start to flip and we get that reversal structure like a doji candle, and we start to actually paint that bottom here and then roll out on the daily, volume's still high, which is nice, but it's sell volume, not buy volume. RSI is the lowest it's ever been since the protocol launch, which is a great sign for a bottom. You know, volume hasn't dropped off much in the last couple of days at 51.51, so we are consolidating through there. It's actually picked up a little bit, so price has come down, volume's picked up, but it's been sell volume, not buy volume. The strength has bottomed out. It's on its ass at 15, which is so low, it's not funny. MACD, heavy sell structure. As you can see here, we bottomed out around that negative 21, negative 16 level here. Price didn't really move up. We just had that chop and change as the MACD started to increase. You know, I can stipulate what's going to happen here, but with the token unlock in 11 days, it's being heavily front run at the moment by investors within the METIS family. Again, there's too many factors here to invest, in my opinion. I would wait, and I would prefer, you know, the people I look after and trade with to wait as well. It's just there's too many factors. It could go against you really quick, and you might get the generational buy bottom of a century for METIS, or for anything within the market if we do again get that hawkish news and we go risk off. You know, does it break this level and head down? I don't see it breaking 30. I see it bouncing off 40 personally, but if it's really bad and the market goes hard, you know, you might lose 40 and we might head a little bit low into this liquidity pocket. I don't see us losing 30, which would be probably a 90% drawdown off 320. That's absolutely massive liquidity losses. If we even push, if Bitcoin pushes 10% and then alts went 15%, again, we'd only be looking again right on that level of 39, 40 from here. So yeah, I'm going to wait for FOMC. We'll see what happens with the news. Again, if we do get a little bounce and the market structures change for the next 3 months and we start to move higher, so be it. You know, it's always better to buy in here on an uptrend than it is to buy, say, here on a downtrend. So that's the plan with METIS, with my trading anyway at the moment. I'm just going to have a look in the chat, see if there's any questions. When METIS $25. Oh, you want me to look at Luna? All right, bring Luna. Luna is what I'm getting behind. TA, buy. The cash reminds me of Swift chain, by extension, Atom, price per lagging by fundamentals. Absolutely agree with that, Tristan. Sorry guys, there we go. All right, so Luna. Look, Luna's actually holding up really well. Out of all the coins in the market in the last 2 months, Luna has probably been the top performer. Whether that's through seniorage or whether that's through Do Kwon's just craziness buying Bitcoin and just pumping that as a reserve asset behind Terra, Luna has just held up stronger than, you know, a lot of coins. So if you take it off its previous just little top, you know, it's down 29%. That's nothing. If you're an investor and you bought up through this range, I would not even be bothered about selling where it is currently. You know, it's held up really well. Has anyone else got any? I know there's 11 people in here, but has anyone else got anything? Throw it in the chat that you've been watching that's held up really well as well. If you have, throw it in. I'll have a quick look at it whilst I'm doing before we wrap up. But yeah, for Luna, I'd have to go in and touch the fundamentals at the moment as to what they're doing or what's changed. I know Do Kwon endorsed Frax, Finance, and FXS recently in Forpool. And there's a number of DeFi assets inside Forpool that are going live with staking and some, I'm not going to say because I don't know 100% what the rewards are. But I know FXS and Frax are delayed because Curve Finance need to do something to upgrade their contracts. And then the last thing to actually go live in Forpool for this reward yield thing that he's created. Again, I'm not 100% over it. I've just been trying to read briefly and I haven't had the time to get deep into it yet, but that's a play that I'm actually looking at coming up, is that FXS Frax share, which is the essentially the seniorage token for Frax Finance, which is an algorithmic stablecoin if you don't know what it is yet. It pumped when they announced that Do Kwon was setting up Forpool with Frax endorsed inside of it, as UST and Frax as the official stablecoins for the certain things going forward, and FXS being that seniorage shared token like Luna is for UST, it pumped, and it pumped hard. Now it's cooled pretty much all the way back off from that pump, but again, I went into the Telegram and there's a lot of investors that were disgruntled with the fact that CRV hadn't upgraded the contracts and there was no time frame on when it was going live in floor pool for everyone with FXS and crack share. So if it does go live, I'm trying to dig out the time frame within that Telegram group and find out when it is. I guarantee that there will be a run to the upside when everyone starts buying FXS and fracks inside that, whatever that liquidity generator is called floor pool. So I'm going to do my own research on that and I'll get back to you guys on it probably next week. But that's it from me at the moment. METIS still looking for a bottom and a really, really good entry point that could create 100% ROI in the short term quite easily if the market flips, in my opinion. You know, if we're looking for short-term swings, anyone in this chat, that's, you know, the 10 people that are on here plus me, excusing admins, if you're looking for short swings, you know, there isn't a great deal of liquidity moving in certain things, but, you know, let's say you had $1,000 and you were trying to make 10% ROI or make $100 a day. You know, you may have to play around with leverage on a certain exchange. If you do want to play with leverage and you're going to do spot trading, you need to look at something that has like low volatility. So if I just clicked on METIS at the moment and went into the 30-minute chart and played around with these swings, if you're a day trader, you know, you could swing off this and get, let's say you didn't get the actual bottom, but you got a nice entry here. There's 13% on your money, or so let's say 10% on your money. You had $1,000, you've just made 100, sell out, wait for another bottom, bought in here. Again, you've now got 1,100, you've made $1,100. Again, sold at the top, bought at the bottom, and you know, another 10% off your now $1,220. So you're up, you know, a total of like $320 or $340 in the period of just over 24 hours, and that's just spot trading. So, you know, you're making 30%, 36% ROI a day just by trading one thing on METIS, understanding what's happening within its price action, using one exchange like KuCoin with the market buy, market sell order, depending on the liquidity books, or with Gate IO and using the limit, because you can't market sell on Gate, which sucks, but it is what it is. I personally wouldn't use either the scan, what's it called, Uniswap. For METIS, it's just, I don't think the LP's there in the depth in the orders anymore, and slippage, and I'm just not a fan of it personally. So I'd rather use exchanges and just look for things like this and make sure the liquidity's in the books when I'm trading. But, you know, if you're a day trader, again, you don't have to be on it all day. It's a 30-minute chart, but if you manage to get a good entry, buy the fear, you know, sell up, buy, you know, ride these sort of little levels on the small time frame. I'm just looking at that high, 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 low, high, 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 low, high, high. You know, this is on the 30-minute up. You know, can this here break? When the Americans wake up tonight and they start to buy the market, you know, they might drive the market up. And METIS might actually break this little range that it's put throughout here and actually pop to the upside. So if it does, it'd be really nice to see this head back towards $50. But again, I'm going to sit on the sidelines and wait, because I want to know what's happening across the globe, and the guys with the big money that drive the big markets that make all of us little fish cry when we make the wrong decision. So sit on the sidelines and wait. I'll stop sharing there. But thanks guys for jumping on. I'm going to call it, as it's been an absolute massive day. Any questions for next week, let me know, and yeah, we'll go from there. Cheers.